We are back with another Saxton podcast. Just when I thought we turned the corner to spring, weather has different ideas. Welcome, Deuce. How you doing?
I'm good. I think we jinxed it. If I remember correctly, you asked me before the last podcast, was spring really here? And I think I said yes like a big idiot.
Give me the forecast.
Anywhere north and west of I-95, get ready for the old Jack Ham. Anywhere east of 95, you're looking at a Coach Miller hybrid off the tee. Not really sure what's going to happen. I'll say for you, my guess is going to be, I'll go 4 to 8 inches of snow with some rain, sleet, mush, slop type mixed in. How about that?
North of us will get hit pretty good.
Yeah,
North of me.
On the other side of the city of you. You're on Jersey side. I think anywhere on the other side of Philly is going to get hit pretty good.
How, what's the forecast for the Bear?
He's going to be hibernating, I think, for a while. He's going to need, I'm going to say this is a 5+ substance type storm.
So basically what you're saying to everybody is get to the liquor store today.
Oh, yeah, the Rust, you might be too late. I feel like up there, people plan for the liquor store before the grocery store, so you might be late up that way.
Couple sit-ins going in at the local taverns, probably.
Oh, yeah, guys will just walk to the local bar, I would think. Nanny Coke Beer and Wine is probably closed already.
Speaking of Nanny Coke, I heard today Brandon Matthews will be buying a house in Nanny Coke.
Nice Rambler, 30 grand cash.
He may be able to buy a second with the 30 grand.
Congrats to Brandon Matthews, though. That's an impressive win. Great stepping stone.
Big time. Shifting gears, though, we'll get back to golf. We were all over the text chain last week with the NFL free agency. Give me your overall thoughts before we get into the individuals.
Maybe I just don't remember what last year was like. I'm not sure why, but I feel like this year was pretty exciting. Our text chain was happening. It felt like we were Adam Schefter and Peter King ourselves. A lot of moves. I was very surprised at some of them. I was surprised at how much wheeling and dealing was going on. I think the common theme, though, was teams that were not very good panicked and overspent like they always do.
Do you think we will start to see more trades in the years to come?
I do. I think good teams, the old adage that you have to build to the draft, I'm not saying it's dead, but I don't think those top 10 picks are as valuable as they were maybe 15 years ago, or at least the perception of those picks. I think to the very least the trade value chart will start to change a little bit.
Are you surprised that, to me, the market seemed a little lower than what a lot of people thought it would be as far as guys getting paid? Did that surprise you at all?
Well, it depends what you look at. I thought some guys, like Russell Okung, got ridiculous money from San Diego. He stinks. I'm shocked he got that kind of money. I think you saw interior guys get paid very well. I think you saw skilled guys overestimate the market, overestimate their worth. Someone like Terry Pryor, for instance, probably thought he was going to get a deal in the 4 or 5 year range for 8 to 10 a year. He only got a 1 year deal. So same with Alshon Jeffrey. He got a nice 1 year payday, but there's no security in that deal.
Yeah, it worked for Revis. Okung did the same thing. You think we'll see more 1 year deals on years to come with guys betting on themselves?
You know what's interesting that you bring that up? I think Kirk Cousins is going to lead the way and carry the Revis torch with that. From what I've read, he does not want a 7-8 year deal like most quarterbacks have. He wants a 3-year deal. He wants the 24, 25 a year that a high-end quarterback is going to make. And then he wants, at the end of 3 years, or even at the end of year 2, he wants to renegotiate. So I think the guys with leverage, especially the quarterbacks, you're going to see that take place more often.
Well, since you got onto the Hearts, what's going on in Washington right now?
there was a missile, I think, shot off from North Korea, and it hit directly at Redskins Park.
McLuhan officially out. Who's running operations?
Dan, Bruce, one of the two. Same as always, it's the same old crap. The guys in the suits think they're fantasy football gods. I'm almost to the point where I'm not sure Dan Snyder really cares if he wins or loses. I think he's just happy being the guy. It's not going to change. He's proven that over 20 years now.
How does the Kirk Cousins situation play out?
Oh, Jesus. Honestly, I have no idea. No clue. I'll be interested to see who their GM is. My guess is that he does not sign a long-term deal before this year. He plays his tag and tries to force the trade, I think. If they go 8-8 again, let's just say they go 8-8 and they miss the playoffs, and he plays well like he did this year, right? Not a superstar, but not, he's top 15 quarterback. I think he tries to force his way out.
If nothing is done before the season as far as the deal, will he play under the tag again?
Yes, I think so. I don't think he's young enough to kind of waste a year of his career. He's already 27, 28, so I think he kind of has to play for his next deal.
Sticking with the Hearts, your thought on Terry Pryor?
I think he showed last year what he's capable of. He's raw, but I like the deal. 1 year, kind of has to prove that he can stay level-headed, get his maturity issues in check. But the skills are there. He's fast, he's big, he's tall. He can catch. I really like what he brings to the table as a receiver. So I really like the deal.
I think it will benefit him as well pairing up with Doxson and Jamison Crowder, and if Jordan Reed could ever stay healthy. He may not have as many catches, but I think he's going to be way more valuable.
He should be utilized more in the red zone. Obviously, if Reed is on the field and Cousins is playing well, you have to think Pryor sees more opportunities to score than he did in Cleveland.
Moving along, just give me a couple words on each guy as we go through. DJ Fluker going to the Giants from the Chargers.
I like the deal from the Giants' perspective. They have no risk, really. It's kind of a one-year prove-it deal on a guy that has the physical skills, is just have to put it together.
Yeah, I think this will be one of the more under-the-radar signings, especially if it works out.
Yeah.
Terrence Williams resigns in Dallas.
Interesting that it seems like he took a little bit less than what he could have gotten somewhere else. I don't really love him as a player. He has speed, but not the most reliable. I think he got more than what he's worth, in my opinion.
I thought somebody was going to overpay this guy in the market.
Yeah, I mean, he's got all the tools, but for me, it's just there's something not there.
Martellus Bennett goes to the Packers from the Super Bowl winning Patriots.
One of my favorite moves. They signed him for less than they offered Jared Cook, which is just insane. I think he's got a lot of football left. I think he's perfect for that offense.
If he could stay healthy, this may be the best signing of the offseason.
Agree. I always thought Rodgers with an athletic tight end would just be insane.
He's still fairly young as well.
Yes. I was shocked when I thought he was 33. I had no idea he was a few years younger.
Lawrence Timmons goes to the Steelers from Pittsburgh.
I think it's a good move for Pittsburgh. Love Lawrence Timmons. He's been a great player for almost a decade, but I think he's at the end of the line. He can still be a run-stuffing inside backer, but I worry about him in any sort of space.
Carlos Dansby back to Arizona from Cincinnati. Does he have anything left?
No, I'm actually surprised Arizona went down this route. I thought they needed to get younger. Maybe veteran leadership, but not from a football standpoint.
I am not a fan of anything Arizona has done this offseason.
It's weird. It's almost 3 years ago they were just plucking talent left and right, and then this offseason committing tons of dollars to Chandler Jones, who I like, but I don't know if he's worth that much. Carlos Dansby, I don't know. I agree with you.
Anything left for Julius Peppers going back to Carolina?
Nice story. I think he can be a situational pass rusher still. The couple times I watched Green Bay this past year, he was still involved. So, not your three down, havoc-wreaking end that he has always been. But situationally, I think there's something there.
Prince Amukamara goes to Chicago from Jacksonville.
He looked terrible last year in Jacksonville. He's another guy that I used to really like when he was with New York, but I think his time has passed as well. I think he's had too many injuries.
Logan Ryan, somewhat under the radar, going to Tennessee from New England.
This is an interesting one. I like his skill set. He seemed to be very inconsistent in New England, which would scare me after getting paid and going to a team that's not as structured. It's probably good from Tennessee's standpoint that they needed anybody basically in their backfield, but I think he's gonna be a little bit overrated with that contract.
Back to your hearts, they get DJ Swearinger from Houston.
That's what I think about that one. The guy can hit, but all he does is go for the head. Can't cover anybody. The deal is actually a little bit more team-friendly, so I'll give Washington that, but I'm just not a fan of him on the field.
A.J. Boye to the Jags.
Love it. Love Boye. I think he's a top 10 corner. I love him across Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey to me is... It's hard to say right now, but I think Dallas in 5 years is going to wonder why they didn't take Ramsey over Zeke Elliott.
It seems like Tom Coughlin is putting his stamp on Jacksonville already with a physical defense.
Yeah, I love what they've spent a ton of money, so it better pan out. But I do really like the Boye signing, especially.
Dre Kirkpatrick stays in Cincinnati. Anything left for him?
Yeah, he's still young, way younger than I thought. I think this is a good move for both of them. He stays in a familiar system, and they get a corner, which, even an average one like Kirkpatrick is a premium in the NFL.
Nick Fairley staying in New Orleans.
Maybe I missed it last year, but was Nick Fairley that good? He got a ton of money.
He was so hyped that year at Auburn coming out. I didn't think he was that much of a force in Detroit once Sue left.
Man, I know they need bodies, but they paid him pretty well. I don't know. I think he might be still living off his name a little bit.
Micah Hyde goes to Buffalo from Green Bay.
He's another guy that got a pretty hefty contract, but DBs, again, they lost Gilmore, so they kind of had to find somebody. I don't know if he's a starting two in the league, but he's a good, solid, reliable back-end player.
Yeah, I don't love the money he got. I do like him as a player. I think Green Bay will miss him.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Alshon gets that 1 year, $14 million deal here in Philly.
I like it's a lot of money for 1 year, and I've never loved him. I thought he kind of benefited from Brandon Marshall when he was in Chicago, but I don't think there's any risk from the Eagles' standpoint. They get a good, solid number one receiver at a 1 year deal. He can prove it and see what happens from there.
Can he be the number one Philly's looking for?
Well, it's interesting you put it that way because if you're talking Philly specific, I think it's a little bit of a weird fit. You're kind of going with the big receivers where I thought they needed a little more speed. I know you got Torrey Smith, but God, you're going to hate him by September 20th. So I don't know. I still think you need a slot speed guy.
Well, Torrey Smith, you hate that signing?
He's speed, and that is all he is. He can't run routes, and he can't catch. So, as a wide receiver in the NFL, those are two things you need to do pretty well. Last I checked, he'll make a couple big plays for you.
Can he stretch the defense?
Yeah, that's what he does. To me, I know he's way cheaper than Deshaun Jackson, but at least Deshaun Jackson has good hands, and he can run more than one route. If you watch every Eagles game, every play, you're going to be sorely frustrated with Torrey Smith.
Deshaun Jackson to Tampa.
Perfect signing. I thought the money was actually right. I anticipated him getting a little more than what he got. Perfect compliment to Mike Evans.
How dangerous has that offense become?
That looks really good to me, especially if they draft a running back somewhere in the mid rounds. Tampa's building something. They're cooking.
Chris Baker also to Tampa.
Another one of those under the radar signings you talked about. He played really well in Washington last year. I know that was a guy that the Hearts wanted to keep. Just a little too expensive, but he's a very good interior player.
Calais Campbell to the Jaguars.
Another good signing for the Jags. Veteran, can still play. One of the best run stuffers in the league. I mean, he's a huge man. A really good signing.
Prototypical Tom Coughlin guy.
Correct, yep.
Kevin Zeitler to the Browns from the Bengals.
I know this is going to shock people, but because of the money he got absolutely paid. But if your team is as horrific as Cleveland is, you got to start somewhere. The offensive line is usually a good place to start. So I don't mind the move. They had money to spend, and he's a safe play.
Stephon Gilmore to New England, in essence replacing Logan Ryan.
Love it. He little expensive, but I think he's a really good player. He got smoked a couple times early in the season, but the second half was really good. He had a great year before that. Obviously, Bill sees him twice a year, so he knows what he's getting. He's a physical corner, and he can run. I really like the move.
How does Malcolm Butler's situation play out?
I think it's pretty obvious now that he's not going to be a part of their future. He's a great player, but Bill knows that he's expendable now. I would be pretty surprised if he's not dealt for trade picks at this point. Either a team signing him to his tender and New England not matching it and taking the first rounder, or just a straight trade for draft picks.
The way that it is played out, does he lose any value as far as New England goes? Now that he said he wanted out, it seemed like they were shopping him for Cooks. Has he lost any value?
That's a good question. I think he's probably widely regarded as a top 5 corner. Would you say that?
Yeah, probably right on the brink of somewhere in 5 to 7.
Tough to lose value at that position. I think there's still 5, 6, 7 teams that would love to have him, no matter what.
Back to the Browns signing Kenny Britt.
He had a sneaky good year last year, but Britt's always been a guy that has never lived up to what he could be or should be, so I thought they overpaid a little bit for him.
Luke Jokel to Seattle from Jacksonville.
I did not realize how bad Luke Jokel had become that he's signing a short-term, short-money deal. This is probably just like the DJ Fluker signing in New York. Seattle's going to take a shot at a very high draft pick and see if he can resurrect his career.
If he can't with Tom Cable, he never will.
Great point.
As you said, as I was making notes for the podcast, and I came across his name, I had to look twice.
I forgot he was in the league.
Mike Glennon goes to Chicago.
I mean, if you look at it right away, the numbers are staggering. But when you think about it, he's essentially the lowest paid starting quarterback in the league. Out of 25, let's say 5 teams don't know. The 25 teams that have their starting quarterbacks, he's essentially the lowest paid one. So, not crazy about Mike Glennon, but I don't think it's as bad of a deal as people think it is.
A move that I liked, Tony Jefferson to the Ravens.
Great move. Him and Weddle, that's going to be a really good combination at safety. He can play 3 different positions, and those are my favorite type of guys. I love guys that can move around the safety, corner, slot, even down linebacker positions. It's a great move.
Probably the worst move of the offseason in my eyes, Robert Woods to the Rams.
What? When did Robert Woods become a player? I was shocked when I saw the guaranteed money for him.
If you're trying to groom Jared Goff, I don't know if this is the guy you build around.
I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a NFL player, but man, didn't think he was a borderline 1 with that money.
Barry Church goes to Jacksonville from Dallas.
fence in this one. I don't mind Barry Church. I think he's a little bit overrated, though.
Woodhead to the Ravens.
I love Danny Woodhead. He's been one of my favorite players the last 10 years or so, but he's coming off 2 significant injuries in a row now. His game is predicated on those quick bursts. I would worry about him a little bit, being able to sustain over 16 games. They had to do something, though, with Kenneth Dixon now being suspended for the first 4 games.
Kenny Stills re-signs in Miami.
I think it's a good play for both of them. Him and Tannehill seem to have a rapport, and he's got speed, so speed's a premium.
Jarvis Landry becomes a free agent next year. Does this say anything about where that might head?
Ooh, I'm a big Jarvis Landry fan. I think they re-signed Jarvis Landry too, actually.
Tyrod Taylor stays in Buffalo.
I'm not sure where else they would have gone. I know he's not a top echelon quarterback, but he's kind of been okay for you. This is a really tough decision to make, but they don't really have another option right now, so I'm not sure what you can do.
Pierre Garçon, does he have anything left for San Fran?
He's 31. I love the way he plays. The guy's physical. He's got really good hands. He runs great routes. He's one of the best blocking wide receivers in the game. He's one of those guys, like in a typical NFC East matchup, you don't want to play against. The Niners were smart to front load his deal because I think he's probably only got 1 or 2 years left in him. They gave him a lot. He'll be a good gift for 1 year or so, but I don't think you'll see him put up any numbers in San Francisco.
Anything left for Brandon Marshall signing with the Giants?
I think there's a ton left. I think he was nagged by injuries last year. I know he's old. I think he's 33, I want to say. But he is still physical. He can still get the jump ball. I love the addition because of Shepard and Odell's size. I think Eli needed that red zone target because we all know they never, ever have a tight end.
Yeah, I thought this was a great signing. Maybe the best of the offseason by anybody for what he's going to do.
Fairly cheap, too. I know his age is up there, but, we're only 18 months removed from him having one of the best years of his career, so I love it.
Thoughts on the Osweiler trade?
Shocking. That was the most shocking part of that whole 2-day stretch. I read I can't remember if it was on Monday Morning Quarterback, but they had a couple of unnamed GM sources who said it was one of the best structured trades for both teams that they'd ever seen. So basically, it was a salary cap dump for Cleveland, and Houston got rid of a player they didn't want. I think it's an awesome trade, just looking from a non-fan of either team's perspective.
Yeah, I liked it as well, too. I hope we see more of that in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree.
Since we're on the topic of the Texans and they seem like a landing destination, what happens with Tony Romo?
I'm a little surprised we haven't heard yet, but to me it just makes sense that he goes to Houston. You have been on the why would Denver want him with Simeon and a first rounder waiting in Paxton Lynch. And I think I'm moving towards your theory there. It just doesn't make sense to me in Denver.
While we're on the topic of quarterbacks, does Jimmy G stay in New England? Will he be there week 1?
I'm curious to see. 2 camps there, right? One is, Brady can play for 3 more years. You're just wasting a valuable trade asset. The other camp is, Brady's 40. Does he really have 3 years left? That cliff typically comes in a week when you're at that age. So, me personally, if I was a New England fan, I would want to hold on to him. I would get 1 more year out of Brady and reevaluate. My gut tells me that some team panics and offers a truckload for him and New England takes it. But I don't think New England will settle for anything less than a truckload.
Staying with New England, thoughts on Brandon Cooks?
I mean, it's a great deal. I can't believe they got him for that cheap. They basically just moved back a couple picks, and they traded a late first rounder for Brandon Cooks. And I'm not sure anyone's going to tell you that if Brandon Cooks was sitting there at the 32nd pick of the draft at 23 years old, that he wouldn't have been snatched up by every team in the league. Obviously, they're going to have to pay him at some point, but I think he fits their offense absolutely perfectly.
How many more years could Brady play with this type of weaponry?
That is an awesome point, because you would think the first thing to deteriorate is going to be Brady's arm. But with the weapons they have, it's not like he's chucking the ball 30 yards down the field. Edelman, Cooks, Amendola, we'll see if he's odd man out now. Hogan, Gronk, now Dwayne Allen. They're all short to intermediate passing targets. I love what they did. They got younger, too, which I think was important.
I'll run down the list of remaining free agents. Just tell me which ones you take a shot at. Benny Logan.
Love Benny Logan. Hope he signs locally.
Jonathan Hankins.
Not sure about him. I think there's some questions. That's why he's still on the market. He would be smart to me to wait for the tier above him to sign. He might get a better deal if he waits a couple weeks.
Dontari Poe.
I'm a little surprised that he's still available. I know he was looking for a bigger deal. Some of the numbers that I've seen, especially I think Andy might have offered him, were pretty low. I'm not sure if there's an effort issue there or what, but I used to like Dontari Poe.
Somebody take a shot on Michael Floyd?
Yes, but I think that happens closer, maybe after the draft.
Jared Cook.
Yes. Still pretty athletic tight end. I actually think he'll sign somewhere in the next week.
Adrian Peterson.
Running backs have not been gobbled up here early at all. I think Adrian's going to have to wait for Latavius Murray to sign first.
Any front runners for Latavius Murray that you're hearing?
No, it seems like he's still taking trips around the country. My gut says he might go to Seattle, but I don't know. The running back market's just so weird. No one wants to pay him anymore, so it's kind of just a roll of the dice to see where they go.
Anything left for Jamal Charles?
He'll get a vet minimum deal, I think. A team that already has an established running back. Maybe a team like Jacksonville that has a Chris Ivory and a TJ Yeldon. They can throw Jamal Charles in there for 10 to 12 touches a game, something like that.
Any value with Eddie Lacy?
I would actually take a shot on Lacy if he's willing to, play for minimal money. He's got to stay healthy. I would try to get him into a program where he sheds some more weight than he already did. The talent's there. I think he's got to find a right situation.
This is somewhat of a hypothetical question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Who makes sense for Jay Cutler?
Not the Jets, I'll tell you that. That's a good question.
Is he a starter in Week 1 next year for anybody?
No. Unless it's the Jets, I don't think so.
Two other quarterbacks, RG3 and Geno Smith.
Geno will have a job. I think RG might be out of the league.
What's Chris Longworth?
Vet minimum. He's playing too light. He's been in the league now almost 10 years. He's a situational pass rusher that's sort of average now.
Cordero Patterson have any value?
He could be a good special teamer. I'm not sure when people usually sign kick returners, but that's basically what he is.
Does somebody give Anquan Bolden another year?
I think so. Especially a team that has young receivers. I think he could still be a red zone guy, too.
The rest of the list, defensive guys, Dwight Freeney, anything left for anybody?
Someone will give him a shot closer to next season if he doesn't retire.
Connor Barwin.
You would know better than I.
It's got to be a 3-4 situation. Seems like Cincinnati's interested in him.
Is he a starter?
In the right situation, I think he can still play outside linebacker.
Okay.
Mario Williams.
He's gonna have to put his ego aside and take a minimum contract, I think.
I saw Dante Hightower has visited the Jets, the Patriots, and was on his way to Pittsburgh today.
My gut tells me he re-signs in New England.
DeMarcus Ware, anything left?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm going to say no. I think he might hang him up.
DeAndre Levy.
He's a guy that I would bring in for a physical, and if he checked out, I would take a shot on him. He was a really good player.
I agree.
Before he got hurt last year.
I have a check mark next to him as well. Elvis Dumerville.
He's another one. Just 2 years ago, he had 16 sacks or something crazy.
17, I believe.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he was nicked all of last year or if he just hit the wall, but he's another one I would bring in and see if he still had that quickness. If he did, definitely.
This guy was it may have been in the same draft as Jokel, but it was one of those situations where I had to look twice, and Jarvis Jones, the kid from Georgia.
Yeah, he just didn't pan out in Pittsburgh. There were some character issues. There was some football issues. He's always been an athletic guy, but he's going to have to get lucky, I think, to get another shot.
And 3 secondary guys, Morris Claiborne, Brandon Carr, and Brandon Flowers.
They'll all get, corners everyone needs corners. They'll all get deals. I actually think Mo Claiborne will get sought after a little bit more than the other two. He's young. He was a top 7 pick. I think he'll be able to pick his spot.
We'll get into the draft in the next couple weeks. Any other NFL notes, though?
I don't think so, no.
To the association where the Wizards are on fire.
Smoking hot.
Are they the best team in the East right now?
I don't know. Define best team. Would they beat Cleveland in a 7-game series right now? I think they would have a chance.
What if it ended right now as is, where Cleveland would have to play Toronto in round 2 or Atlanta, who could beat them up inside a little bit, and wore them down for round 3 between either Boston or Washington?
I think I would still like Cleveland, but the absence of Kevin Love right now is pretty big. He was playing very well. He's maybe the best rebounder for his position in the league. But man, I wouldn't be that far away from liking Washington in a series.
With 1 month left, who ultimately is your 1 seed?
I still think Cleveland figures it out. I think Boston gets the 2. I think Washington's the 3.
How about out west? Warriors clinging to a half-game lead over San Ann.
I'm shocked. I get it. KD, probably the number 1 asset in the game, even though I still think LeBron's the best player in the league. I'm shocked at the way they've played since his injury.
I am too, because you think they would just go back to how they did it last year. I mean, has the offense changed that much with Durant?
I don't know. I know they've lost guys, right? They lost a ton of secondary role players, especially that second wave that would come off the bench. But to me, it seemed like that second wave was more important in the playoffs than it was in the regular season. I don't know if it's just Clay and Steph not clicking at as high of a level. I haven't heard Draymond Green's name in 8 years, it feels like. I'm shocked.
As I look at it today, I think that 1 seed is valuable in the fact that I would not want to play Houston in round 2.
No. Houston can score. Also, I think it's valuable. San Antonio is a pretty tough place to play. If they were the 1 seed and you had to go there, I know it's not as big of a deal in the NBA, but it's still valuable.
Can Houston win the West?
I do not think so. There's a really good breakdown. This was secondary talking about the MVP race, and they broke down Harden and Westbrook, and they basically are setting records for inefficiency and turnovers this year, and no one seems to care. But in the playoffs, I think that stuff really is apparent. It comes to a head, and it really hurts the team. I just think they turn it over too much to go all the way.
I hate to even ask this, but I'm going to. Is there any thought or truth to Pop just sitting LaMarcus Aldridge? Or do you think that the issues really crept back in?
Yeah, I think it crept back in. Only I say that because it happened twice in Portland in separate years or 3 years apart or whatever. So I do think it is a real situation. I would love if it wasn't though, and it was a game by Pop. Like that would be my favorite NBA thing ever.
Can they win? Can they win the West without him?
No, they gotta have him.
Your thoughts?
I don't love him on that team. Just to reiterate that, but he's still a really good player.
Your thoughts on what has gone down since the deadline when the Pelicans got Boogie?
Be careful what you wish for. I think this is why it took so long to trade Boogie in the first place. Right here, you're seeing it. Had to be the right fit. To me, I get it. It's only been 10 games or whatever it's been. There is no way that this team can be constructed this way and be successful. You saw the other night when he went off the court, Anthony Davis just went berserk. He was dominating the game. With Boogie on the court, nothing can happen.
Is he your definition of good stat, bad team guy?
Yeah, 100%. I think I've always been a Russell Westbrook has been that, and I still believe that. He would be perfect to go play for. The Pelicans should just trade Anthony Davis so Boogie can dominate on a shitty team.
Does New Orleans have to think about flipping him?
Yeah, I would fire up the trade talks right now. Get them going while you can.
And you know the two teams that will be at the front of the line, right?
The Knicks and the Lakers.
Of course.
I don't know why, but they'll be there.
Would you?
He can go play with the Lakers and their bust of Brandon Ingram, and they can be dreadful for the next 5 years.
Who says no to Cousins to the Lakers for Ingram and a top 3 pick?
I think the Lakers said no because they're morons. I think the top 3 pick is the most valuable piece in that trade.
Well, they need to get it, which they probably will, but if not, it goes to Philly.
I would take the ball kid from UCLA over Boogie or Brandon Ingram right now.
Interesting.
I'd take Lonzo Ball right now. He's a big point guard that can shoot, and he's one of the best distributors I've seen in college basketball.
Interesting.
And Boogie is a team obliterator. Brandon Ingram is just a bust.
How about the other team in LA? If they got rid of Blake Griffin, would they be interested?
Now that's a little more interesting because I think Boogie could play with Chris Paul, and I like the Redick and DeAndre Jordan. That's a better fit to me. Him and DeAndre Jordan, though, I'm not sure how they could be on the court at the same time. That's why we've been calling for the Clippers to blow it up for 30 years because their team is horrifically constructed.
It is. It's horrendous. And they have pieces that could flip into assets.
Yeah, it was constructed perfectly for the 1996 Western Conference Finals.
I know we've talked about this in a previous podcast, but your thoughts on what transpired Saturday night in San Ann with essentially nobody playing except reserves?
It would be like me getting my 5 weeks of vacation a year and asking for 5 weeks more just because. It's especially in that situation where guys are 26 years old and they're taking nights off. I think it's ridiculous. I sound like a LeBron apologist, but he's got 40,000 miles on the tread. He needs some rest. He's playing the most minutes in the league. He's got to take some rest. But it's not like there's no off season, and it's not like you don't get some nights off. You just had the All-Star break, for God's sakes.
Yeah, him, Harden, Westbrook, every night they're out there.
I don't. It's embarrassing, to be honest.
What can Silver do?
I don't know. I've heard 4 or 5 theories and ideas, but I'm not sure how you implement it. You can't force them to play, and I don't think there's a way to. If I say my backstory, I'm not like, what do you do in that situation? I just don't know how you solve it. They're the only way to do it, I think. And the union obviously would put this in the ground immediately, but is to have force contracts to be games played incentivized.
Yeah, my only thought was extending the season into July. Nothing else happens in July in sports. Unless you're a seam head and watch every baseball game. Make the All-Star break longer to give them a halfway break and take it into July. So you have less back-to-backs.
Would go the opposite. What if you shorten the season to 60 games?
Well, I would prefer that route. It would make the NBA season way more compelling, but way too much money to lose for that to happen.
Of course, yes. It will never happen, but if there's only 60 games, every game matters. Can you sit like that?
I would prefer it. I love that 48-game strike shortened season.
Yes, it was awesome.
Any other association notes?
Just Bojan. That's it. Bojan.
Hysteria in Washington.
44 jerseys everywhere.
To golf. Valspar Recap.
Golf. Valspar. Innisbrook Copperhead course. One of the more underrated tracks on tour. It is widely regarded as one of the player favorites. Adam Hadwin, the young Canadian, gets it done. Good story with the runner-up, though. Patrick Cantlay. If people had forgot who he was Jordan Spieth before Jordan Spieth. He was an amateur. He was winning everything. Shot 60 in a pro event while he was still at UCLA. He had some sort of spinal injury and had to take 2 years away from golf, basically. So big-time second place by him.
Good segue into it would not be golf notes if I didn't ask about Tiger.
No news on that front. Still rehabbing. I'm not sure from what. He said he wasn't that injured, so I'm not sure what he's rehabbing from. Same old story.
Will we see him at Augusta?
I don't know. I honestly don't know anymore. I'm going to say no. This is it right here. Like, if he goes to Augusta and shoots 78, his career's over. And I think he knows that. To me, you either do that and you just call it 1B or 1A, best career ever, or I think you need to just literally check out for an entire year and go work on your game.
Yeah, you're right.
This is it. Like, to me, this is the deciding. You're either going to retire after the Masters or you're just taking a year off and you're going to get your game to some place where you think you can win 2 or 3 times a year.
Should be a great week on the Golf Channel with Arnie stories, Arnie documentaries. Your thoughts heading into the Bay Hill this weekend?
Yeah, this is going to be, to me, this is outside the majors, probably the best week of the year just for the story. It's hard to blame the players because the tour schedule jammed 2 WGC events right around this. I'm a little disappointed that they're not getting all the best players. Would have liked to seen, Phil, Rory, Adam Scott, everyone there. You are getting some of them, but I would have liked to see, the best 120 in the world there.
I agree. I thought at least for 1 week they should have put even if they missed the cut, aside.
Yeah.
I would have even rather see some of the guys just withdraw after one round than to skip out completely.
Yeah, I mean, to me it was, you have to set the schedule before you knew he was going to pass away.
Right.
I get it, it's tough, it's a lot of travel, but you're flying private jets, it's 1 week out of the year.
We'll get your official pick Wednesday when we break down March Madness, but any early leans? Or guys you're going to look at?
Yeah, usually this field caters to the longer hitters. Tiger's won there 8 times. I'm going to go early. He played okay at Innisbrook. He finished tied for 7th. But I think he's trending. Henrik Stenson, he's got 4 straight top 10s at Bay Hill. I think the extra motivation with this year being so special, I think he gets it done.
Any other golf notes?
Augusta, right around the corner.
It is. March Madness is awesome time, but knowing that those commercials are going to be this weekend with the Augusta music is great.
The one bad thing, it's going to look a little different TV this year.
The Azaleas.
I think with this cold snap, you're not going to see a bunch of pink on your TV. The only pink will be Bubba's golf
ball. Quick thoughts on the NCAA tourney as we'll delve deep in on Wednesday. Seating okay with you? Anybody left out?
No, you could Syracuse. You could argue. To me, I would rather have a team that is capable of winning games than a team that lost 3 less games over the course of the season. So that would be my one gripe. And then I think Wichita State as a 10 seed is pretty low. I think that's a pretty big wrongdoing, especially now seeing them -6.5 first and 7 seed.
Yeah, Calipari on last night, I thought said it perfectly. The 1 seed should be rewarded by going to their region. But after that, from 4 to 68, just rank them on their line, and wherever they get sent, they get sent.
Totally agree. I think it's a brutal draw for Nova
yes.
and Duke in their own region. I know exactly what segment you're talking about. You should be ranking the field on an S curve.
Yep.
I'm not sure why it's not done like that.
Yeah, I thought that was ridiculous.
I do think that there is potential for mass chaos this year.
Yeah, I think 10 teams can win it. We could have a 12 seed in the Final Four. I agree. This is going to be a wild tournament.
The 1 seeds in particular, their second round matchups they play some athletic teams either way. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think you can see one of the 1 seeds go down early.
I'm with you. I think I don't know if Nova could get by their first round matchup.
I already saw one pundit who left ESPN for Fox and has turned into a West Coast homer. He's picking Wisconsin to beat Nova.
I mean, they play the defense that could give Nova fits. I just don't know if they can score enough.
If you want a scoring team, Bot Tech can light it up too. They have some pretty good guards, so either way is a tough matchup for
Nova. 2 games tomorrow night. Any leans either way? New Orleans 1.5 against our boys in Emmitsburg.
I do kind of like New Orleans, unfortunately. I actually thought I was hoping they got on the other side of this, but I actually think New Orleans is a much better team.
The problem is they're way more athletic to play this Havoc style.
Exactly.
I do like the one kid from the Mount can score. Sophomore Elijah Long. But if he's...
You've seen him in person, so you know this team better than I do.
I'm not comparing him to James Harden, but that's the type of game he has.
What about Landy Thompson comparison? Is that fair?
Landy was probably a little bit more athletic. There's about 6 people that will listen to this podcast that know who that is.
Is Chris Sumner a fair comparison?
No. Actually, Mount will have one of the more interesting guys to watch. The 5'5" kid, Junior Robinson, could absolutely jump out of the gym at 5'5". I saw him throw it down in warm-ups 2 weeks ago. It was ridiculous.
Well, both teams for 16 seeds are fairly athletic, so...
I'm not saying either team could knock Nova off, but Nova has struggled shooting of late.
Nova is the 1 seed that if they get lackadaisical could lose to some random team like the Mount.
Well, if Josh Hart is not scoring, that's where they run into issues.
Yeah.
So I think New Orleans or the Mount can hang around for 30 minutes.
So you are all in on a first half bet against Nova?
Yes.
Oh, man, I can't wait for Wednesday's podcast.
Then the other one, kind of an interesting game, Wake Forest to pick against Kansas State.
I like Wake. No real reason here except for I've seen them play and I like some of their guys athletically.
I have not seen Wake play once this year. I do like Bruce Weber in the tournament. That would be the only way I lean Kansas State.
You don't like Daniel Manning?
Danny and the Miracles isn't happening this year.
No, I don't think so. I'm actually a little surprised Wake got in, but...
That was the only argument I think Syracuse had, was they had a better record than Wake and beat them head-to-head.
Yeah. Well, the head-to-head and 6 top 50 wins.
Yeah.
Done it, but yeah.
Well, we'll get deep into it Wednesday. Obviously, no officials with us liking opposite sides. We stand at 62 and 59 on the year, so we'll need a March run.
Yeah, we gave out a sloppy pick the other night. We'll make up for it.
Notre Dame was the right side. Maryland probably wasn't.
Yeah, Notre Dame was definitely the right side.
There's a seed. It's tough for me to believe that there's 17, 18 teams better than them in the country.
I'm with you. I think we might have them in some bets.
Anything else, pal?
Enjoy the snow.
Hopefully you make it to Wednesday to talk.
I know, right?
Sober, anyway.
Probably not. We might be doing it live with a beer in my hand.
Hungover Wednesday.
I like it.
Great job by you today.
To the cap to the host.
Talk to you soon.
See you, bud.